Accidents are unexpected. Would you know what to do at the accident scene? Be prepared before an accident. Avra and Smith presents the My Lawyer app for your smartphone. Download it for free at avra.com and be prepared when you need it most.
Okay, welcome into another edition of the Pat Dooley Show. I missed you last week. Of course, it was a bye week. I hope you enjoyed yours as much as I did mine. Took some time off, some days off, went down to Orlando, had a great time with the family. I watched a lot of college football, though. I wasn't gonna, that was a rule. You guys can go to the theme park. I'm watching college football on Saturday. So I saw pretty much everything other than the Oklahoma-Texas Tech game, which was a little late. Obviously started at 10 o'clock, but it was good to kind of get recharged, and I think that's the way both Florida and Georgia feel. Get recharged and get ready for this big game coming up Saturday. Certainly one of the big stories of the weekend was the Oklahoma loss. I did not see that coming, although maybe I should have. I mean, Tommy Tuberville has a knack for doing that. 13 times he's beaten top 10 teams in his career. And you all remember, of course, what happened when he beat Florida in 06 when they were ranked number 2, and 01 when they were ranked number 1. He's got a knack for doing that. He's also got a knack for losing games he's not supposed to lose, which is why his alumni and his fan base kind of often gets a little bit angry with him, and that's why he had the whole jet gate at Auburn. But we'll see how Tommy does. They got Iowa State this week. But that certainly changed things. We went from thinking we were going to have 2 semifinal games coming up in college football to now you've got the 1 semifinal, and then let's see what happens with Oklahoma State. I really believed that there was a 1A, a 1B, and a 1C. LSU, Alabama, and Oklahoma. Watching Oklahoma play, certainly against Florida State and some of their other games, I thought they were right there with them. Obviously, I was wrong because their secondary got lit up by Texas Tech. So Oklahoma, I think they're done. I think they're out of it. Their only hope now is to come back and win the big whatever they are championship, Big 12 championship, and at least get a major bowl out of it. I guess they would go to the Fiesta then again. But I don't see any way they're going to climb over that many teams. A lot of weird things would have to happen. In fact, I could see an Alabama-LSU rematch before I could see Alabama or LSU versus Oklahoma. Certainly, the Oklahoma State game is going to be big for them. And now Oklahoma State's sitting there in the driver's seat in terms of can they run the table, beat Oklahoma, and not having a championship game helps, and go play for the national title. So things got a little screwed up this weekend. It's good news for Boise. Again, I'm not a big proponent of Boise. It's nothing against them, but I just don't think that. I think when the playing fields are that unlevel, I just don't think it should happen that way. I don't think you should be able to play for a national title. Well, this is the way it is, and this is college football. It's not the fairest system. I mean, think about Alabama LSU next week. It could come down to a field goal. If the field goal is a foot to the left, Alabama's playing for the national title. If it's a foot to the right, LSU's playing for the national title. And the other team's not. The other team's playing in the Sugar Bowl or whatever. I mean, it's just the way it is in college football. But we will see what happens as we go on down the road. Certainly, the best news of the week by far, Vanderbilt, Florida is a 12-21 game. That means we'll all be home in time to see that Alabama-LSU game. If I had to miss that game, I was going to be not happy. But so that game, and again, it's not going to be too hot, so everybody should be happy. Go to the game. And again, we'll see what happens this week with Florida and Georgia. That may be a kind of a sparse crowd for a 12-21 game Florida-Vanderbilt. Probably a lot will depend on who wins this Saturday. Certainly with Florida and Georgia, it is what it is. I mean, we've talked about it a million times. I was there for Lindsey Scott. I was there for Judd Davis kicking 4 in the mud. I was there for Anton Lott's timeout, and then also I meant to say Lito Shepherd's unbelievable. Still, to me, one of the top 5 plays in the history of Florida-Georgia. If you don't have a sense of history for Florida-Georgia, then it's just another game to you. But if you do, it's really the game of the year. I'm not saying it's Florida's biggest rivalry. I still think Florida's biggest rivalry is Florida State, especially now. But Georgia is the most traditional game. It is a game that, you write books about this game. And we'll see how it all plays out in Jacksonville. Certainly, John Brantley looks like he's going to be back. You never know whether that's smoke screen to make Georgia think he's going to be back or it's the truth. I mean, all we can go by is what Will Muschamp tells us. My gut is that he will be back just because I think that when he got hurt, we were all saying Georgia was when he probably would be back. And I think, does it make a difference? Yeah, and we're going to ask our panel that a little bit later. One thing you have to remember is he hadn't thrown live football since the Alabama game, the first half of the Alabama game. So I'm not sure how big a difference John Brantley makes. I think it allows them to put more in their offense, but because they don't have a true freshman in there. But it's hard for me to sit here right now and think Florida's going to win this game, and it's not because Georgia's played well. I did the stat the other day. Georgia's wins. They've won 5 in a row, 4 straight against the SEC. Those 4 SEC teams are 1-13. So they're not beating anybody. They're beating bad, mediocre teams, and that's what Georgia's been able to do. We talked about this before. Their schedule is set up for them to win the SEC East, although it kind of is funny the way I keep hearing people say Georgia is a front runner in the SEC. They're not even leading the SEC East. Look, I know Marcus Lattimore's hurt, but are you going to count the ball coach out? Okay, he's got to go to Arkansas. He's still got Florida as well, but you're not going to count Steve Spurrier out with a lead over Georgia as we sit here today because they beat him in the head-to-head. You're out of your mind. That thing's not over. I still, if I was going to bet money, I'd probably bet on Georgia, but it's far from over. And finally, Florida really needs this game. This is Florida's whole season. It really is. I mean, there's a lot of you who say, well, what if they're 6-5 and they're playing FSU and they can knock FSU out of what? FSU's already out of everything. They're not going to win the whatever division they're in the ACC. Clemson's on a roll. Clemson's now got a 2.5-game lead on them. So, can you ruin FSU season? I don't think so. I think FSU season was ruined by weight. So I think this is it. You win this game, and now you still got a chance in the East. It's a slim chance, but you still got a chance, and you've beaten your rival, and you've made it 19 out of 22. That's enough to get momentum going forward. You lose this game, it's 4 in a row, and I haven't looked this up yet. I will. But I don't think Florida's lost 4 in a row since 0-10-1, and that would not be good. You've taken this gauntlet of an October and gone 0-4. Now there's been reasons, injuries certainly, but this team is probably going to be the healthiest it's been since early in the season. Depth should be back. The only guy they're going to be missing looks like is Jeremy Brown. So we'll see what they've got. It'll be exciting. I look forward to it. All right, right now we're going to switch and go to the 3 things.
Accidents are unexpected. Would you know what to do at the accident scene? Be prepared before an accident. Avra and Smith presents the My Lawyer app for your smartphone. Download it for free at avra.com and be prepared when you need it most.
All right, 3 things I learned over the weekend. Number 1, Arkansas is a distant third. I was having an argument with Robbie Andrew and our staff that I thought Arkansas was just a notch below Alabama and LSU. Well, Alabama and LSU don't struggle with Ole Miss, and they were down 17-0 in that game, had to come back, won the game 29-24. It's pretty clear to me because defensively they're just not up at that level. So they are well below that level of those 2 elite teams. Alabama and LSU by far are the class. I'm willing to accept that I was wrong, thinking Arkansas was closer. And the reason I said that is because Arkansas had to go to Tuscaloosa. Some fluky things happened, punt return, a fake punt, stuff like that, or a fake field goal. And it wasn't like they got blown out of the water, and that was early in the season. But I'm with Robbie now. Arkansas is a distant third. Number 2, Vanderbilt has a chance to go to a bowl game, which is amazing. Nobody saw that coming before the season. You got to give James Franklin a lot of credit. They beat Army this week. They're at 4 wins. They need 2 more. Tennessee's a winnable game for them. Kentucky's a winnable game for them. They got to play Wake Forest as well. So there's a chance for Vanderbilt to get bowl eligible, and that would be, I'm kind of rooting for those guys. Certainly don't beat Florida, but I'm rooting for those guys to get that done because I think I like what James Franklin's doing. I don't think Vandy's going to be your father's Vanderbilt for very long. And finally, number 3, Tennessee could go 0 for the SEC. Who saw that at the beginning of the season? They're 0-4 now. They've still got 2 tough games and 2 kind of easy games, but when you're 0-4 and now they're talking about going to the 3rd quarterback, there are no easy games. I mean, I'm not considering Vandy an easy game anyway. Vandy's defense is brutal. They blitz. They're going to give them all kinds of fits. They've still got to play Kentucky. Kentucky's awful. But, if that's the game that is the only game you can win, it's not good. It's certainly not been a good season. They got South Carolina this week. Even without Lattimore, I think South Carolina steamrolls them. I just don't think they're very good. And when they came in here, you could kind of see where they were deficient in certain areas, and it's just not worked out well for them. Played Alabama tough for a half, but that's about all they have for this team. All right, that's going to do it for Three Things. We'll come back with our panel. Judd Davis and Rachel George are going to join us. We'll talk about some great topics in college football. That'll be followed by the list.
Accidents are unexpected. Would you know what to do at the accident scene? Be prepared before an accident. Avra and Smith presents the My Lawyer app for your smartphone. Download it for free at avra.com. And be prepared when you need it most.
Okay, welcome back to the Pat Dooley Show. We've got our usual panel coming up here. We're going to discuss 5 items from the world of college football. On my far left, Rachel George. You remember her from the Orlando Sentinel, or you remember her from a previous Pat Dooley show. You already know her from the Orlando Sentinel. She covers the Gators, of course. And Judd Davis, who's had, you've been in a few Florida-Georgia games.
Couple over the years,
Yeah.
a couple of good ones.
I have been fighting for years to get him in the Florida-Georgia Hall of Fame. It's a joke that he's not in there.
You've been my biggest, yeah, but you know what? Kickers were last in line. Now,
See, now if you'd picked up, like Bobby Etter picked up a fumbled snap and ran it in, so he's in the Florida-Georgia Hall of Fame.
yeah, you got to do something more than just
Yes,
actually.
then kick 4 field goals in a monsoon, which apparently is not good enough.
No, that doesn't. And then, but that was one of the greats. Eric Zyer, they had
Oh.
the 1 play left, 0 on the clock. And that was one of the greats.
Anton Mont, best play ever made. Calling time. That's right. All right, so we're going to discuss 5 items here being Florida-Georgia. Does Florida's dominance in the last 21 years matter? As everybody knows, Florida's won 18 in the last 21. And heck, one of those wins for Georgia was the week Zook got fired. So, I mean, you didn't count that one. But Rachel, I mean, do you think all that history matters when you get into a game like this?
I think it's nice and, certainly a source of pride for Florida. But if you look at where these teams are going into this game last year, I don't think it matters at all. Florida's coming in off 3 losses, just like last year. Georgia has won 5 in a row. I don't know how much of a mental obstacle this could be for Georgia, but if you look at these teams and how they match up, I don't think it plays in.
Judd, I think for their fans it may be more mental obstacle because they're probably going here going, if we blow it this year and we lose these guys again, I don't know, because last year that was the case. I mean, Florida wasn't very good and went in there and found a way to win the game.
Well, it's pregame. The fans are telling them what the record is, and I don't know. You kind of look at like Tiger Woods on the first tee.
Yeah.
Look what he's done. If he's beaten you forever, and all of a sudden you get in that first tee, but yet he hasn't done anything in 2 years, you're still in the back of your head. You're still thinking, well, what did he used to be? To do to me, like Ernie Els,
Yeah.
I mean, you may try to sum it up, it's different now, but when you have a history there, I think it's still in the back of your head.
Well, and for most of these kids, they don't have any history, but guys like Demps and Rainey, they've seen, in fact, Rainey was saying this week he's still mad about 07,
Yeah.
about them stomping in the end zone after the first touchdown.
And the whole team coming out on the,
Maybe Florida's more motivated.
He didn't even play in that game. He was redshirting that
Yeah.
year, so.
But, it's funny because that really is the only win that Mark Richt had over Urban Meyer. He went 1-2 against Zook, which is mind-boggling in itself. And, of course, Ray Goff, Mark Richt, and Jim Donnan only won 1 game against Steve Spurrier. But it's amazing, Judd, and you were around for this, how Steve Spurrier changed the mentality of that game. This was a game Georgia owned. And I was there for Lindsey Scott. Mm-hmm. They owned this series, and Steve Spurrier looked at it and goes, 75 miles away. It's our home game.
When I got on the team in '90, it's by the time I graduated, it was we always beat Georgia.
Yeah.
It's just like my son now. I say something, Florida State's a big one, and he'll say, well, we always beat Florida State, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. You weren't around when it was a huge deal when
Right.
Florida State owned everybody, and it's just kind of like what age you are and your perception of things. It's like these guys going to Notre Dame. They don't remember them back in the 50s and how incredible it is to play for Notre Dame. But it's kind of like, I think what it is, your perception. But for the fans, we all know, and everybody knows still haven't caught them in the overall record.
Right.
And that's still a big deal in all these fans' minds. But, you want to
I wonder
get
if Steve Spurrier will drink champagne when they catch him, because that was a big thing. Somebody asked him when they were like 13 behind. They said, do you think you'll be around when you catch Georgia? And he said, 13 years is a long time. It wasn't even like we're going to ever lose a game.
Yeah, Ray Goof was what he
Ray Goof?
Ray Goof?
The Goofer. My favorite Florida-Georgia story is '94. It's pouring here, absolutely pouring. And we're driving to the game, and there's a guy running down the middle of University Avenue with his shirt off, just running down there screaming, "Keep Ray Goff! Keep Ray!"
That was here, that's right. That was here, that was right.
Here.
That's right.
All right, our second question, Rachel, start with you. Obviously, John Brantley, probable, and I cannot put enough sarcastic quotations around that.
And what does that mean anymore?
Well,
right?
we have no idea because we've gotten, we're not always forthcoming with injury information. But my gut is that he's going to play in this game. Does he make that big a difference?
I don't know how much he can make actually statistically. I don't know how good the ankle is going to be where he can move around on it, but I think he'll make a difference for a couple reasons. Just one, psychologically, you know, he has seemed to be more of a leader this year, and they've been lacking that with the freshman quarterbacks, which you would expect. And then also, I think that opens up the defense. You know, Chris Rainey said yesterday the defense will have to play us differently, and that's only good for Chris Rainey, Jeff Demps, Trey Burton, and the rest of the running backs, because the past few games with a freshman quarterback who's not much of a passing threat, the defenses have been able to key in on the box, put extra guys in there, and stop the run. And Florida has just not run the ball well during this losing streak. So I think just having him there, having that option where he could go deep if he needed to, or even just, you know, 10, 15-yard passes, something that makes him more room for the run game, I think it will matter.
Yeah, and you know, if I had any criticism of the staff, it may be that they didn't maybe get their backups ready the way they should have. They kind of put all their eggs in that John Brantley basket. My question, and you've seen guys have to deal with this, Judd, is the rustiness factor. I mean, he hasn't thrown a live ball, a pass that mattered since way back in October 1st, and you wonder if he's going to be that effective.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a huge difference. You can't just get off the couch. You've been on a walking boot for how many weeks now? And just a fifth-year senior or a true freshman, you can't get a bigger. I mean, that is just reading the SEC defense that's coming to the line of scrimmage. I mean, I think some of these.
Knowing the playbook.
Yeah, and just these true freshmen, they come up there and it's, I think, almost, okay, this is the play, I'm supposed to do this, and I'm not going to do anything else except this. And when it breaks down, you're kind of in a deer in headlights. But John, I mean, a fifth-year senior, I don't think people understand. You have to change the whole offense around, like you said, just because it's a true freshman. And just the fact that the last time we saw Johnny, I mean, wow, it was starting to click against Alabama, and everybody was so excited. I'm like throwing darts. It was like, and then he goes down. I'm not saying we would have beaten Alabama, but it's all of a sudden we saw a piece of what Johnny could have been. So if we can come back, and he deserves it because he's been a great kid. Everybody knows that.
And that's the thing. I think that even the people who cover this team want to see him come back just because this kid, and you know, Rachel, in college football, you don't start, you go home, you leave. You're not going to be around. I mean, we're all going to wonder about that with Driscoll and Brissett next year. But Johnny stuck it out, got stuck in a bad situation, finally has the right situation and hurts his ankle, misses 3 games, 3 biggest games of the year. You kind of, I think there's a lot of people really rooting for this guy.
I think so too, and I think it's kind of interesting, you know, after he got hurt and, you know, the freshmen were in a tough situation, you know, to face the teams they had to face, but I was sitting there thinking about all the fans who before the season thought John Brantley was like the worst option ever. Get in Jeff Driscoll, he's the next Tim Tebow, and, you know, making all these things, and what the coaching staff said was true. Like, these are 2 freshmen, they're not ready. We have complete faith in John, and over the month of September, and especially that first half of Alabama, he was really backing that up and showing the fans why the coaches believed in him. So I think a lot of people do want to see him back.
You mentioned Tim Tebow. Is he still playing in the NFL?
I think they had a little bit of coverage, didn't they? Well, the 2 teams were 1-9. I think they had a show.
And I went to a place to watch it too.
That was
I'm a
true.
sucker like everybody else.
The Denver Post sent 3 columnists to that game in Miami, and they all wrote about Tim Tebow.
3 different
Nobody wrote Matt Prater, who missed 2 field goals and then made the game winner.
Did he do anything that isn't just extraordinary? One way or the other. One way or the other.
That's who he is.
It's the legend grows.
I've got to quit hip dialing his mom too. I picked up the phone. I'm like, oh my God, I did it again.
Did you really?
Yeah, I've done it like 4 times this week. She probably thinks I'm trying to get a hold of her to talk. Tell me about Timmy. All right, if you're watching, Pam, sorry about that. Number 3 is Georgia's defensive reputation overinflated. The reason I brought this up, they played some pretty mediocre teams. You know, Tennessee, Brady got hurt in that game. Mississippi State offensively is nothing. Ole Miss offensively is nothing. Vanderbilt actually scored 28 on them with a little bit of a rally. But everybody's raving about the defense in the second year under nutcase Todd Grantham, and they're 3-4. But Judd, I mean, to me, until you face the really good offenses, stats are for, as Steve used to say, assistant coaches and losers.
Well, it's just like us coming into Alabama. Everybody's like, "Whoa, we got it, man! We're cruising!" And all of a sudden, wow, reality set in. And then
great rushing defense.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, Rainey and Demps look slow. All of a sudden, you're like, "What's going on here?" Because I thought, I mean, I was excited. I think everybody was. I mean, Demps taking off, running, you know, and yeah, I think reality sets in, and you have to you got to show what you can do against the big boys. It's kind of like a Boise State, you know. You gotta prove it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the thing, Rachel, is we don't know how good Georgia is. We know that they weren't good in the first week. The second week, they probably should have beaten South Carolina. Some bad things happened, and they haven't played anybody since then.
Well, yeah, and you point to the lesser opponents, and there's no question that Georgia has the easiest schedule in the East. They don't play any of the top 3 teams from the West, but they gave up 45 to South Carolina. So this is not, a defense that's really shown much. And let's not forget, they're going to be missing 2 guys. Kwame Gathers and Sean Williams are both suspended for the first half by the SEC for some personal fouls they got last week against Vandy. So I think it's kind of what you said, like Florida early on. We just didn't know because they hadn't seen anybody who was a good measuring stick. So
is Dems back?
Dems should be back too. And what are the chances we get a game like last year, which ended up being a real shootout?
I think the way both defenses have looked, I think the odds are good.
The only question is, can Florida? And again, this is the question that drives me nuts: is where are Florida's wide receivers? Obviously, they don't trust them if they're not going to throw them the ball.
I see glimpses of Adazio in this offense, and I know they had to change some things because, like I said, they have Driscoll and it wasn't, But then when we were going along, and all of a sudden there's this package of Trey Burton in there taking these dives, and I'm like, I really felt like they brought in Adazio to call some plays. And the receivers, maybe they just don't do it in practice. I don't know. I think
all summer we heard Quentin Dunbar,
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
We heard that all summer. I think he's got one 40-yard pass, and that's about it. Deontay Thompson has had a couple, but he's still, the drops that plagued him last year are still kind of lingering. Frankie Hammond's been probably their most consistent, but they haven't looked to him a whole lot. And I think Andre DeBose has been the best one in the past month with the 2 touchdown passes. But they have not been a factor.
And I'll tell you, I think Jordan Reed's been a bust this year. I mean, and for a couple of reasons. One is, you don't have to jump every time you catch the ball. One of them, he fell backwards out of bounds and ended up getting a no catch. He dropped a pass against Auburn. I just don't think he's been a factor. And I'm not saying he's a bust for his career. I'm saying he's a bust this year. We thought he was going to be an all-SEC type receiver, tight end. Is Omarius Hines still on the team? I mean,
you wouldn't know.
It's
I think he's got 1 catch.
Well, what about Gillisley? I thought they were going to.
Yeah, he hurt his ankle, they said, in the game.
Well, Jordan Reed, where's the little tight end dumps? The little
tight end screen.
I mean, do you know how hard that is to stop? I mean, you watch it all week. In NFL, it's almost
crossing
unstoppable.
patterns. Yeah. Who was harder to watch? Florida offense against Auburn or Denver's offense for 55 minutes against Miami?
Flip a coin.
I shut the TV off on Denver. I was obligated to watch Florida.
A lot of people didn't see the 4th quarter against because they were so upset. Oh, the diehard Gators.
All right, number 4. Are we heading for Boise State in the title game? Obviously, the Oklahoma loss probably knocks them out, and the Alabama LSU loser, I don't think they're going to get back in. I really don't think they're going to push the agenda to get them back in. I think their attitude is going to be, hey, you guys, the SEC's got enough going for it. Oklahoma State, say they lose to Oklahoma, I mean, it seems like it's set up for maybe finally getting Boise in the title game.
Well, I think that kind of depends on Oklahoma State losing to Oklahoma. Where's that game?
That is in Stillwater, I think.
Well, that helps because Oklahoma's almost done. They just lost to Norman, but they're pretty tough there. But it seems like they have more control over what happens and coming from BCS
and no championship game.
Right.
Which is a huge plus. Which is another, again, the NCAA, college football is the most flawed sport there is. I mean, here's Oklahoma State. They don't have to play a championship game. LSU and Auburn, or LSU, Alabama, whoever wins that game is going to have to go play somebody. And it may be Georgia, maybe South Carolina, whoever. It's still a game. You got to play against a quality opponent. The Pac-12, you got a championship game, but you play it at the home field of one of the teams. I mean, come on.
Not only is the SEC the toughest conference in the country, you have to go play the championship game, which can knock you out as well. Boise State, I don't know. They beat Georgia early on in the year, and it's almost like that gives them a little bit of credit just to keep moving forward. But nobody really knew how good Georgia was. But that's what they do. They'll bring one team, and they end up being not really good.
But that would help them if Georgia went on to the SEC championship. They need them to win the East.
Absolutely.
They do. The other thing, Air Force gave them fits this weekend. That told me a little bit that maybe there's a possibility. And I have nothing against Boise State. I think that I love the blue field. I love Kellen Moore, but I don't want to see him in the title game. I just don't. Just personal.
I think nobody's going to argue with you. I know.
Don't do it. Finally on our list, does the suspension take Tyrann Mathieu out of the Heisman race? And of course, Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger from LSU, he's on my short list, I will tell you, as a Heisman voter. going into last week, and then he was suspended along with 2 other players, apparently for testing positive for synthetic marijuana. At Florida, they smoked the real thing. That's a Bianchi line. I'm giving him credit. But Judd, I mean, when you look, the Heisman has a certain standard, but that doesn't necessarily mean the Heisman voters do. I think some people will look at that and go, "You're out." Some will go, if you're the best player, I'm still going to vote for you.
Well, remember, Bianchi shook up the world when he wrote about Cam Newton, right? Remember, he said, "I will not vote him." And what was the line of what it is, character and everything? I mean,
integrity.
Yeah, integrity. And I agree with him. I mean, I personally, you know, a lot of people think it's strictly on the field, but you even said yourself. I mean, how are you? Are you going to vote?
Right now, he's probably off my ballot. He probably is, just because I think that's part of being a teammate, is not putting yourself and your wishes ahead of your team, and that's part of being a Heisman Trophy winner for me.
He's being the anti-Tebow.
There's a lot of anti-Tebows out there. And there's a lot of anti-T-bites too.
That's right.
But you know, I don't know, Rachel. I think his chances of winning were slim and none anyway, only because when you look, Luck's doing what you would expect him to do. Richardson's doing what you thought he would do. There are enough Kellen Moore. There are enough big-time players. This isn't like a year where everybody's falling off and they're going to stick a defensive.
Well, and I mean, he's a defensive player. When was the last time? Charles Woodson?
Charles Woodson.
Yeah, so
and
it's
he
been,
ran back punts. Well,
exactly.
Matthew does too. But.
Exactly, but so he was kind of going uphill anyway. I know everyone's been impressed with him and the honey badger kind of phenomenon or whatever, but that alone was going to be tough. I think something like this, you know, you bring up the Cam Newton and Bianchi making a fuss. The difference is, didn't stick with Cam Newton. You know, they finally closed an investigation that says, okay, this, you know, didn't happen or he didn't know. This,
yeah, can Bianchi get his ballot back now?
I'll check with him. But this, though, I mean, if he tested positive for this, he has already missed a game. Last I read, it was up to the AD whether he would return. They're on a bye and they have Alabama next week. I would be shocked if he did not return. But yeah, I think this hurts him a lot.
They'll let that chancellor know who's boss now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it'll be interesting to see as we go forward. I interviewed the kid, and I like the guy, but there's certain things that you just can't do.
Well, as a defensive player, you got to do everything perfect. I mean, above and beyond on the field. And then if you have any strikes like that, you're pretty much, I think you're going to be wiped off.
All right, that's going to do it for our panel. I appreciate certainly Rachel George of the Orlando Sentinel, Judd Davis, former Florida kicker, 4 in the mud. So that's my nickname for you, 4 in the mud.
4 in the mud, Judd.
4 in the mud, Judd. I like it. All right, we'll be back with the list right after this.
Accidents are unexpected. Would you know what to do at the accident scene? Be prepared before an accident. Avra and Smith presents the My Lawyer app for your smartphone. Download it for free at avra.com. And be prepared when you need it most.
All right, it's time for today's list, and with it being Florida-Georgia week, I felt, you know, Bernie Matchin doesn't like us calling it the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, but that's what it is. You know, in fact, it technically isn't. I would guess any Michigan game would be the world's largest outdoor cocktail party because they have more fans. But that's what college football is tailgating. And nobody's saying, hey, go get drunk and go drive over the bridge. I mean, we all know better than that. But I decided to come up with some alternative nicknames. And maybe Bernie will like one of these to call the Florida-Georgia game. How about the split personality trophy? You know how it's split right down the middle? Like Mr. Two-Face? Or Maryland's helmets? Okay. Number 2, I had the Bridge Bowl. You know, because that, to me, the personality of Jacksonville is all those bridges. I mean, everybody comes over a bridge to get to the game, unless you're coming from the north. Number 3, the Larry Munson Classic. Got to name something after that guy. I mean, I've known Larry Munson for a long time. He actually did the Jacksonville Bulls games when I covered them. And he talks like that all the time. You think it's just his radio voice, but we'd be riding in on the bus to Oakland. He goes, it's going to get cold and windy here in the 4th quarter. That's just the way he is. Number 4, an alternative to Jaguars football. There you go. That's a perfect name for this Florida-Georgia game. I know they won Monday night, but come on, they're 2-5. And finally, number 5, the Bill Castells Championship. Bill Castells is a man who coined the phrase, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. So give him some credit. Me, I'm just going to keep calling it the world's largest outdoor cocktail party because I think it's a cool name. And it's what it's all about. People go there, have a great time. Doesn't mean you don't have a designated driver. Doesn't mean you go hang out at the landing and get in trouble. We've seen that. Most of the troubles happened after the game elsewhere, not at the game. So we'll see what happens with Florida and Georgia this weekend. I want to thank my panel, certainly Rachel George from the Orlando Sentinel and Judd Davis, former Florida kicker. Also want to say goodbye to Laura. She's been my videographer and producer of this show. We're going to miss her terribly, but she's got a better job moving on to bigger and better things, and we appreciate everything she's done for us. Until the next show, this is Pat Dooley, sports columnist of the Gainesville Sun, saying so long from the Sunshine State.
Accidents are unexpected. Would you know what to do at the accident scene? Be prepared before an accident. Avra and Smith presents the My Lawyer app for your smartphone. Download it for free at avra.com and be prepared when you need it most.